know, education in Malaysia is governed by the Ministry of Education. This is enforced by law because we have the Education Act 1996. This states that the Ministry of Education does have power to control what the syllabuses and what education would be given to government-controlled schools. So in Malaysia, we are actually very privileged because a lot of our education is free because that's the government's initiative. They want us all to be very educated. So usually we have from your preschool, your primary school, your secondary school, and even when you go to university for tertiary education, it's usually free. However, there are some university students, some Malaysians, we don't get this equality. Some of them cannot enter a specific university completely by law. So class, please help me answer this question. Is it actually fair for this inequality to exist? So class, can anyone tell me why the access to education is still unjust and unfair to some people?
Because the government is
Everyone please discuss this and make sure to do multimedia presentation for
What is this?
What is this?
I don't know.
What is
I
this?
disagree with that.
What? Why?
Awang, sit down.
Okay.
Why? Hey, I think I have a different opinion to the lecturer's earlier question.
What about it? Which one? Oh, that one. Go ahead, Jesse.
Well, he said that there is unfairness and injustice when it comes to access to education. However, I have to disagree. To be specific, we have the National Higher Education Fund Corporation, PTPTN.
What about it?
PTPTN was set up by the Malaysian government to help students continue their studies to a higher level without increasing their family burden. PTPTN loans help students to pay their student fees and give aid in their cost of living. Many students enjoy the advantages brought by the PTPTN loan. This is because the PTPTN loan are subsidized at low or no interest rate at the ground of encouraging many qualified students to further their studies.
You are only looking at the prominent part without noticing small mistakes, Jesse.
Oh, do tell me, what are the small things that we seem to forget?
Well, all I can say is that I agree with you to a certain extent. Providing loans and better education for many is never enough. So I believe that responsible parties should consider a few matters as well.
You know I hate that about you, Mr. Wayong. You say that you kind of agree with me, and sometimes you say that you disagree with me. Then you did is scratching the surface, the things that you wanted to point out. Are you really sure that you have valid and viable authority to support your claim, Mr. Wayong?
Know me well, Jesse. That is what we're going to think of right now. So let's take a look, shall we?
Alright, let's go.
Let's go.
Vika, why don't you try this coffee?
Hannah, I don't drink coffee. How many times should I remind you of that?
I'm sorry. We are in different universities now, so it's easier to forget. Alright, since you don't want coffee, then what do you want to do? Talk about our experience so far?
Yeah, let's do that. You start.
Well, I'm having fun in UiTM right now, but it saddens me that only Bumi Putras can enroll in this university. I know for a fact that Bumi Putras need it to progress and also develop, but does this seem like a form of discrimination to you? I would like to know the perspective of non-Bumi like yourself.
To say that I envy you is unjust because I am a student from a university where all the races and ethnic are one. So I'm very proud of that. But I will say that I feel deeply unfortunate for my non-Bumi Putras friends who cannot enroll in public universities because of the quota. I find it quite unfair.
I see. That is very unfortunate. There is little that we can do, but giving that more opportunities to young people, regardless the status of Bumi Putras or not, we have to do a little policy change onto that.
Yeah, I hope so.
According to Aristotle, justice involves equality not for everyone, only for equals. Aristotle, in his Nicomachean Ethics, said that the same equality will exist between the persons and between the things concerned. If they are not equal, they will not have what is equal. The philosopher again said what is just in distribution must be according to merit. He believes that certain goods such as wealth, honor, and opportunity should be distributed among different individuals in accordance with worth or merit. This view is called proportional equality, that is, greater shares for greater merit as distinct from identical shares irrespective of merit. If people are equal in worth, their shares of the relevant goods will be equal. However, if their worth is unequal, their shares will also be unequal, which will match the difference in worth.
But what matters is the content brought forth. Education, justice, and fairness is a question that may never be answered. But that is what philosophy is all about. Regardless, John Rawls, in his book A Theory of Justice, contradicts Aristotle's view. Aristotle is utilitarian because utilitarianism tells us to help those who can most benefit, those who can gain the greatest increase in welfare. Rawls makes it clear that his theory of justice is a social contract theory. It is worth mentioning that the most important recent theory of justice, in which the social contract theory is revived and refined, is Rawls' theory of justice. Rawls develops his theory of justice around the social contract approach, which is an improvement over the utilitarian approach. Rawls was dissatisfied with the traditional view of utilitarianism, which holds that societies should pursue the greatest good for the greatest number of people. One of the major objections to this theory is that it gives priority over the majority over the minorities. On the contrary, Rawls attempts to develop his account of justice within the social contract approach, which holds that society is in an agreement amongst the members within that society, and every member enters into this agreement to follow certain rules for the betterment of everyone.
Rawls' theory of justice contradicts the Malaysian education system, but perhaps the Malaysian education system follows Rawls' Do Contrat Social, where the book theories about the best way to establish a political community in the face of the problems of commercial society, which Rawls had already identified in his discourse on inequality. The social contract helped inspire political reforms or revolutions in Europe, especially in France. Malaysia, being a still developing country, chooses to develop the majority first, which is the Bumiputras, in the face of industrializations and globalizations. Perhaps it is understandable that the choice the government of the day made was to balance the political spectrum along with the circumstances of the time.
Hi, Saeed.
Oh, hi.
Hi, long time no see.
Yeah, it's been so long.
It's been too long since the last time we sat down like this. So how is it teaching at the new school? Specifically in Kuala Lumpur, if I may add.
It's great here, but I wish we were assigned somewhere nearer to one another though. I remember how difficult it was last time for me to find your school since it's in Kedah, rural areas.
Well, there is not the only difficulty that one might face associating to rural schools.
Oh really? Do share.
Recently, the school administration was short-handed on teaching staff and had to resort to employing less qualified educators. For example, the mathematics teachers not only need to teach mathematics, but they had to teach outside their expertise, such as English subject. And we should know that without sufficient educational materials, resources, and proficiency, it should be resulted in poor performance by the teacher.
Does that affect the student negatively?
Extremely. According to the latest examination, the students performed poorly and developed a reluctant attitude towards the subject in class. Subsequently, most of the students were not qualified to enter secondary level education, and not to mention higher level education.
I see. That's really unfortunate for the children, especially the fact that it's not your fault to begin with. It's due to the lack of opportunities to learn in an effective environment and the access of adequate resources.
Right. I believe that such a problem would not occur in urban schools like yours.
I have to agree. Most administrative issues in my school are handled quite skillfully without affecting the students' opportunity. I guess that is the perks of urban schools, as resources of every aspect are easier to access and obtain here.
And I believe that these imbalanced opportunities between rural and urban schools should not be disregarded, and the actual conditions of rural schools in Malaysia, including the problems these schools face, needs to be handled urgently.
Cheers to that.
I got to go. I have a meeting to attend. See you next time.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
How unfortunate. It seems like there is unequal distribution among the students in Malaysia. There should be equality in the aspects of distribution as well as education system, don't you think?
Exactly, as Marshall Grahi's Western-influenced ideology to operationalize justice within education, which are the equality of opportunity, the equality of treatment, and equality of acquired knowledge. As this theory relates to justice and fairness, the education system should be evaluated, conducted, and assisted with an equal distribution among the students. Norman E. Gronan, in his book of Measurement and Evaluation in Teaching, stated that such evaluation should be used judiciously. Evaluators must put aside personal bias and not give away fairness in assessment, as well in the treatment during the student's learning period and beyond those learning periods as well. This curbs the theory of individual differences in learning and educational aspects.
This would mean that this theory is supported by the principle of proportional justice by Aristotle as well, that each individual receives according to what they supposedly contribute to society.
You're right. Hence, there should not be any differences of academic opportunities between rural schools and urban schools.
Then, should we look at another example of unfairness and injustice in Malaysia's educational system?
Hey guys, you know your PU result out already? You guys check already kah?
Oh, really? Let's check together.
Okay.
now. Okay. Guys, I got my first choice. Program Asasi Pintar UKM. Oh my god.
Congrats,
Kimi.
Guys, I didn't get my first choice, but I get my last choice lah. Matriculasi.
Guys, I didn't get any offer. I think I will continue with STPM only.
I'm so sorry to hear that, Ruby. But no worries, you can still appeal, what?
Okay.
But it's so unfair.
Yes, we have the same result, we have the same merit mark and no interview, but still I didn't get.
That's why.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I see no problem with this, since the most virtuous people make the most significant contribution to the state. Hence, they have a right to receive the greatest honor. As women, slaves, and workers are unable to make essential contributions to the state, hence they are less virtuous, according to Aristotle. So they will receive lesser share of wealth and honor. Justice is that virtue of the soul which is distributive according to desert. Justice must be distributed proportionally. The three girls are of different abilities, better than the others in certain aspects. Thus, it's reasonable to receive different levels of opportunity.
However, Aristotle's theory of justice has been criticized on the ground that it is unjust and unfair to discriminate against people on account of their race, gender, or ethnicity. If women, workers, and non-Greeks are given opportunities, they can also prove themselves to be significantly equal. Hence, Aristotle fails to have an account of the concept of human rights as such. He also fails to establish a universal perspective that will respect equal dignity of all humans. Thus, his theory, like Plato's, fails adequately to respect all persons as free and rational agents.
I see, you're not wrong. As I remembered, despite granting that Greek and non-Greeks, slaves and masters, as well as men and women are all human beings, Aristotle justifies the alleged inequality among them based on their worth and merit or desert.
Yes, I believe adopting Rawls is more reasonable as he lays great emphasis on equality and believes that all men are created equally. He never encourages people to discriminate on account of their gender, race, ethnic identity, level of intelligence, and physical strength. He makes it clear that his theory, which he calls justice as fairness, considers persons are free and equal, morally autonomous, and rational beings. Rawls' theory of justice can be understood by his two principles of justice.
I know this. First principle. Each person has the same and indivisible claim to a fully adequate scheme of equal basic liberties, which scheme is compatible with the same scheme of liberties for all. Second principle. Social and economic inequalities are to satisfy two conditions. Firstly, they are to be attached to offices and positions to all under conditions of fair equality of opportunity. And secondly, they are to be the greatest benefit of the least advantaged members of society.
Yes, the first principle is a strict egalitarian principle and is known as the equal liberty principle since it assumes the equal liberties of citizenship. In this principle, Rawls maintains that basic rights and duties should be distributed equally among all the members, whether more advantaged or least advantaged of the society, without considering their race, gender, or ethnic identity. The basic liberties of citizens are political liberty of the right to vote and to be eligible for public office or and hold public office, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of conscience, freedom of the right to hold personal property, freedom from arbitrary arrest and seizure. These liberties should be granted to all equally as the first principle requires, since the members of a just society possess the same basic rights. This basic liberty also applies to education.
Right, and I believe the second principle also states that these inequalities should be arranged in such a way that every member, including the person ranked the lowest of the society, must be benefited. Rawls maintains that the distribution of income and wealth need not be equal. It must be to everyone's advantage.
Yes, that is the first part of the second principle, whereas the second part states that there should be fair and equal opportunity. It rules out formal discrimination on grounds such as the person's gender, race, or ethnicity.
I understand now. I guess it is against Aristotle's theory of justice.
Yes, but there is a rebuttal that has been made by Amartya Kumar Sen that what we need is not the ideal principles of justice in an ideal situation in Rawls' sense, but an actual or practical implementation of these principles in the real world. Amartya Sen remarked that a theory of justice must include ways of judging how to enhance justice and reduce injustice. But Rawls fails to do so as he does not offer any effective measures for achieving this goal. He fails to give an account of the problems like how to prevent an accumulation of wealth or how to minimize social and economic inequalities.
I see. So there are pros and cons to all said theories.
I believe so.
As you can see, there is unfairness and injustice within the Malaysian education system. Theoretically, there are many ways to minimize it, but it may not necessarily be applicable realistically. As said by Aristotle, the unjust and injustice in the sense of the unfair are not the same, meaning thereby all that is unfair is unlawful, but not all that is unlawful is unfair.